Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. How many of you have spent your life trying to be the nice girl, just trying to make everyone around you happy? How many times have you said yes when you really wanted to say no? How many opportunities have you missed because you were too afraid to upset anyone? The world doesn't need any more nice girls. It needs strong, authentic, unapologetic women who are willing to take control of their lives. If you're the type of woman who has always said yes, who has always been the peacekeeper, the one who never rocks the boat, then this speech is for you. Because I'm about to tell you something that will change the way you look at your life, your worth, and your power. You need to stop being the nice girl. And I know that may sound harsh, but I'm telling you this because I care about your growth. And I want you to wake up, take charge, and live your life on your terms. Mentality is something that many women fall into without even realizing it. It's a mindset that comes from the desire to please others, to fit in, and to avoid conflict. From a young age, we are often socialized to be kind, considerate, and helpful. We are taught that being nice is the key to success in relationships, work, and life in general. However, what starts as a noble intention can slowly turn into something far more dangerous, a cycle of self-neglect and people-pleasing that strips you of your individuality and power. Being the nice girl isn't inherently bad. It's a reflection of someone who wants to create harmony and avoid rocking the boat. But the problem arises when being nice becomes your default mode, when it starts defining who you are. You might feel like you need to be the one who always says yes, the one who always helps, the one who always puts everyone else's needs before your own. The challenge is that this behavior is unsustainable and often leads to deep frustration, resentment, and burnout. Here's why always trying to please others can be dangerous. It makes you lose sight of your own needs and desires. When you spend all your energy making sure everyone around you is happy, you forget about yourself. You forget what makes you feel fulfilled, what excites you, what motivates you. You forget to take care of your emotional, mental, and physical well-being because you're too focused on fulfilling the expectations of others. You become a reflection of everyone else's needs and never take time to reflect on your own. The problem with this is that people begin to take you for granted. They know that you'll always say yes, that you'll always show up, that you'll always be there to help, whether it's giving your time, energy, or resources. But what happens when you keep giving and giving without taking anything for yourself? You begin to feel empty. You may start feeling like you're not getting the respect you deserve, but you're too afraid to speak up because you don't want to upset anyone. Your kindness, your generosity, and your willingness to help become a tool that others use for their own benefit without regard for your feelings. This is where the real danger lies, in becoming so focused on the needs of others that you lose sight of your own value. You begin to think that your worth is tied to what you do for others, not who you are. You feel validated when people praise you for being helpful or accommodating, but deep down, you're ignoring the fact that you're neglecting your own happiness. You may even start to feel resentful, but instead of confronting the issue, you keep being the nice girl, hiding your true feelings and continuing the cycle. Being the nice girl also traps you in a state of constant fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being judged, and fear of disappointing others. It's that inner voice telling you that if you don't keep giving, if you don't keep showing up, people might abandon you. But let me tell you, this true respect doesn't come from how much you give or how much you sacrifice. It comes from how much you value yourself. When you give without boundaries, you teach others that your needs don't matter. But when you learn to respect yourself, to say no when necessary, and to prioritize your own well-being, people will begin to respect you for it. It's essential to understand that being nice doesn't mean being a doormat. There is a difference between kindness and people-pleasing. Kindness is giving without expecting anything in return, but it's rooted in a place of self-respect. People-pleasing, on the other hand, comes from a place of insecurity. It's driven by the need for approval, the fear of rejection, and the belief that if you don't please others, you won't be loved or accepted. When you stop being the nice girl and start being your authentic self, you take back control. You stop living for the validation of others and start living for yourself. You become more selective about where you invest your time and energy, and you stop bending over backwards to meet other people's demands at the expense of your own happiness. This is not about being rude or selfish. It's about setting healthy boundaries and recognizing that you are worthy of respect and consideration. It's important to remember that saying no isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. It's not about being selfish, it's about preserving your peace. You don't have to explain yourself or feel guilty for not constantly giving to others. Saying no is a declaration that your time, your energy, and your well being matter just as much as anyone else's. The more you practice this, the more you'll find that people begin to respect you not because you're always there to meet their needs, but because you're confident in your own boundaries and your own worth. The nice girl mentality might seem harmless, but it can slowly chip away at your sense of self and your happiness. It's time to break free from the trap of always trying to please others. Start living for yourself. Prioritize your needs, set boundaries, and surround yourself with people who respect and appreciate you for who you are, not just for what you can do for them. When you stop being the nice girl, you give yourself permission to be the strong, confident, and authentic woman you were always meant to be. People pleasing is a habit that many of us fall into unknowingly, and it often stems from a deep-seated fear of rejection or conflict. At its core, people pleasing is the constant need to make others happy at the expense of our own needs, desires, and well-being. It's an automatic response, often shaped by childhood experiences or societal expectations, that can become deeply ingrained over time. The challenge with people pleasing isn't just that it's exhausting or unsustainable, it erodes your sense of self-worth. It convinces you that your value lies in how much you can give to others, and that's not true. The truth is, while people pleasing might make others like you temporarily, it often leaves you feeling unfulfilled, disrespected, and emotionally drained. The problem with being a people pleaser is that it's a never-ending cycle. You constantly put others first, thinking that if you give enough of yourself, you'll earn their affection, approval, or validation. But here's the hard truth: no matter how much you give, there will always be someone who demands more. And that's because people pleasing is never about giving for the right reasons, it's about seeking external validation. You start to mold yourself into what others want you to be, abandoning your own needs, goals, and dreams in the process. Over time, you lose your sense of self. You start to forget who you are, what you stand for, and what you truly want from life. One of the biggest dangers of people pleasing is that it conditions you to believe that your value is based on how much you can do for others. You may start thinking that your worth is tied to how helpful, accommodating, or agreeable you are. In reality, this mindset leads to nothing but self-neglect. You put everyone else's happiness before your own, but at the end of the day, you're left feeling empty and unappreciated. People might thank you for your efforts, but they don't value you in the way you deserve to be valued. You're not being appreciated for who you are, you're being used for what you can do. When you constantly seek approval by pleasing others, you rob yourself of the opportunity to truly understand and embrace your own worth. This behavior takes its toll. The emotional exhaustion from constantly giving without receiving can lead to resentment and burnout. The problem is, because you've trained people around you to expect you to always say yes, they stop seeing you as a person with your own needs. Instead, they begin to see you as someone who exists to meet their needs, which only reinforces the cycle of people pleasing. When you continuously put others before yourself, you'll find that you rarely get the chance to focus on what you need. And even when you do, you may feel guilty about it. But why should you feel guilty about taking care of yourself? Why should you feel bad for setting boundaries and prioritizing your own happiness? People pleasing also affects your relationships. When you're constantly trying to make others happy, you're not being honest with them about who you truly are. You're presenting a version of yourself that you think will be more acceptable or more lovable to them. But that's not a real relationship. Real connections are built on authenticity, not on constantly molding yourself to meet someone else's expectations. Eventually, people can sense when you're not being your true self, and it creates a sense of distance in your relationships. People may appreciate your efforts, but deep down, they might not respect you as much as they would if you showed up as your real, unfiltered self. One of the most damaging aspects of people pleasing is that it often leads to a lack of personal fulfillment. You can spend your entire life living for others, helping them achieve their goals, making them feel good, but at the end of it, You're left with a life that doesn't feel like your own. When you're always busy trying to please everyone around you, you forget to make time for your own dreams. You put your own goals on the back burner because you're too focused on fulfilling the expectations of others. The problem is that this approach to life isn't sustainable. People pleasing eventually catches up with you, and when it does, you may find yourself feeling lost, disconnected from your own desires, and wondering where your life went. It's important to understand that setting boundaries is not the same as being selfish. Setting boundaries means you are taking control of your life and putting your own well-being first. It's about saying no when you need to, protecting your emotional and mental health, and recognizing that your value is not based on how much you give. When you stop being a people pleaser, you stop living for the approval of others and start living for yourself. You start making decisions based on your own values, desires, and needs, not on what you think will make others happy. People pleasing is a form of self-sabotage. It's the constant cycle of trying to live up to an ideal that isn't even yours. It's time to break free from this mindset. You don't need to constantly seek validation from others in order to feel good about yourself. You are worthy just as you are. The moment you stop trying to please everyone is the moment you take back control of your life. It's the moment you step into your own power, your own authenticity, and your own worth. The road to true happiness begins when you stop giving away pieces of yourself to please others and start focusing on what truly matters, your own happiness, growth, and fulfillment. The fear of conflict is one of the most powerful forces that drive the behavior of many people pleasers. It's this fear that keeps them trapped in a cycle of self-neglect. As they prioritize maintaining peace and harmony over expressing their own feelings and needs, conflict is something that most of us naturally want to avoid. No one enjoys the discomfort that comes with confrontation, the awkwardness that arises when emotions are high, or the potential fallout from speaking our truth. However, the reality is that avoiding conflict, especially for the sake of pleasing others, often leads to even bigger problems down the road. It may seem like you're keeping the peace in the moment, but in the long run, it costs you your self-respect and can even damage your relationships. When you're afraid of conflict, you begin to silence your own voice. You become so focused on how the other person might react that you don't even consider what your feelings are or how you might need to stand up for yourself. In an effort to avoid disagreement, you suppress your emotions, pretending everything is fine when, in reality, you're filled with frustration, resentment, or sadness. The problem is that this doesn't just disappear. When you continually push down your emotions to avoid conflict, they begin to build up. Eventually, they explode in ways that might seem disproportionate to the situation. It's not the argument or disagreement that overwhelms you, it's all the years of pent-up emotions that you've been avoiding because you were too afraid to confront them head-on. What's worse is that people pleasers often believe that their value lies in being agreeable, in avoiding tension, and in making others feel comfortable. They believe that if they just keep things smooth, others will like them more and they'll have an easier time getting along with everyone. But the truth is, while avoiding conflict may bring short-term relief, it also prevents you from fostering meaningful, authentic relationships. Healthy relationships are based on mutual respect and understanding, not on pretending everything is okay when it isn't. When you're always trying to keep the peace, you aren't showing others the real you. You're presenting a version of yourself that avoids any real emotional depth, and that creates a barrier to true connection. This fear of conflict also leads to a lack of boundaries. People who are afraid of confrontation are often afraid to say no, even when they know they should. They're afraid to turn down a request because they don't want to disappoint the other person or risk creating tension. But in reality, by saying yes to everything, they're saying no to themselves. They're saying no to their own needs, their own comfort, and their own mental well-being. The constant need to please others and avoid confrontation forces you to give up your own autonomy, to become a mere extension of other people's wants and desires. You stop listening to yourself and instead you listen to everyone else. This lack of boundaries doesn't just affect you emotionally, it affects you physically too. People pleasers often experience higher levels of stress because they're constantly juggling the expectations of others. The mental and emotional strain of trying to keep everyone happy can lead to burnout. You're so focused on managing other people's feelings that you neglect your own needs. And over time, this takes a toll on your health. Whether it's through sleepless nights, tension headaches, or just a constant sense of anxiety, the price of avoiding conflict can be steep. The more you ignore your own boundaries, the more likely you are to experience these negative effects. One of the biggest issues with avoiding conflict is that it leads to a cycle of self-doubt. When you continuously suppress your own feelings and avoid speaking up for yourself, you begin to question your own worth. You start to wonder if your opinions even matter. You tell yourself that your feelings aren't as important as other people's, and that your needs are secondary to those around you. But this is a dangerous trap to fall into. Your feelings are valid. Your needs are important. And when you stop ignoring them for the sake of peace, you begin to take back control of your life. You stop letting fear dictate your decisions and start living from a place of self-respect. Learning to face conflict is one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself. It doesn't mean you have to become combative or aggressive, but it does mean standing firm in your beliefs and speaking your truth. It's about learning to express yourself honestly, even when it feels uncomfortable. Confrontation doesn't have to be hostile. It can be calm, respectful, and healthy. It's about expressing your feelings without fear of judgment, standing up for yourself without apology, and realizing that it's okay to disagree with others. When you learn to embrace conflict, you begin to grow as a person. You develop a deeper understanding of who you are and what you stand for. You stop living for the approval of others and start living authentically. The real freedom comes when you understand that conflict is not something to fear. It's a natural part of life and a necessary component of growth. Conflict allows you to assert your boundaries, stand up for yourself, and build stronger, more honest relationships. It's through conflict that you learn what truly matters to you, and it's in those moments of discomfort that you get to decide who you want to be. Embracing conflict is not about being combative, it's about being true to yourself. And when you do this, you gain the confidence and self-respect that come from knowing your worth, regardless of what others think. Being afraid of rejection is one of the most powerful forces that drive the need to please others. It's that underlying fear of not being accepted, of not being good enough, of being judged that keeps people pleasers stuck in this perpetual cycle of self-sacrifice. You tell yourself that if you just make everyone happy, they'll like you more, they'll appreciate you, and they won't leave you. But that belief is built on a foundation of insecurity. The fear of rejection becomes so ingrained in your behavior that you start to lose sight of who you are, what you truly want, and what you need to be happy. You're constantly seeking validation from others, always hoping that their approval will give you the sense of self-worth that you're lacking. What many people don't realize is that this fear of rejection can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you're constantly bending over backward to make everyone else happy, you're neglecting yourself, your needs, and your values. Over time, this self-neglect leads to feelings of resentment, frustration, and even loneliness. You may find yourself in relationships where you're always the one giving, always the one compromising, but you never feel truly seen or valued for who you are. People might appreciate what you do for them, but they don't necessarily respect or love you for who you truly are. And the more you try to please them, the more they take, because they've never had the opportunity to see the real you. The fear of rejection makes you prioritize the happiness of others above your own. You put your needs aside because you're so afraid that if you don't, people will walk away. But the truth is, people who truly care about you, people who genuinely value you, won't leave because you stand up for yourself. They won't reject you for having boundaries or for speaking your mind. The people who love you will respect your decisions, even if they don't always agree with them. In fact, people respect strength. They respect confidence. They respect someone who isn't afraid to express their feelings and desires. But you'll never be able to command that respect if you're always focused on avoiding conflict and seeking validation through self-sacrifice. The problem with seeking validation from others is that it's never enough. No matter how much you give, no matter how many favors you do, no matter how hard you try, it's an endless pursuit that leads nowhere. The reason it leads nowhere is that external validation can never fill the internal void that exists when you don't believe in your own worth. No matter how much praise, affection, or approval you get from others, it will never be enough to heal the insecurity you feel inside. You'll constantly be chasing after something that can never truly fulfill you. That's why people pleasers are often left feeling empty despite all their efforts. You give so much of yourself, yet you feel like you're still not enough. This is because the approval of others is not the source of true fulfillment. True fulfillment comes from within, from knowing that you are enough just as you are. The fear of rejection also keeps you from stepping into your true potential. You may find yourself shrinking back from opportunities because you're afraid of being judged or criticized. You might hold back your thoughts or ideas because you fear they won't be well received. This fear holds you back from living authentically, from expressing yourself fully, and from reaching your full potential. You're not afraid of failure, you're afraid of what people might think if you fail. You're afraid that if you put yourself out there and things don't go perfectly, others will reject you. But this fear limits your growth. It keeps you small, playing it safe, never taking risks, never truly going after what you want. The truth is, rejection is a natural part of life. Everyone faces it at some point. But rejection is not the end, it's simply a redirection. It's a chance to learn, to grow, and to become stronger. When you stop seeking validation from others, you give yourself the freedom to live your life on your own terms. You stop fearing rejection because you realize that your worth is not dependent on others' approval. You are worthy simply because you exist. Your value is not determined by how much you can do for others or how well you meet their expectations. Your value is inherent, and once you understand that, you stop living in fear. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into the mold of what others want you to be. You stop pretending to be something you're not just to gain approval. Instead, you stand firm in your own authenticity and embrace the idea that rejection is not something to fear, it's something to grow from. When you stop seeking validation from others, you start to attract the right people into your life. People who truly see you, who appreciate you for who you are, and who value your authenticity. You begin to build relationships based on mutual respect and understanding rather than on the false notion that you need to please others to be liked. The fear of rejection starts to lose its grip on you, and you begin to move through life with more confidence, more purpose, and more clarity. You realize that rejection is not something to fear, it's simply a part of the journey. When you stop running from it, you start living freely and authentically. You start to believe that your worth doesn't depend on what others think of you. You begin to understand that the only validation you need is your own. And once you believe that, nothing can stop you from achieving your dreams and living a life of true fulfillment. When you stop seeking approval from others, you begin to take control of your own life. For so long, people pleasers live in a cycle of constantly waiting for others' validation, always hoping that external praise or acknowledgement will fill the void they feel inside. The truth is, living to please others often means sacrificing your own happiness and well-being. You live by their rules, follow their expectations, and mold yourself into what you think they want you to be, all while ignoring your own needs, desires, and dreams. The result is that you lose touch with who you really are. Your identity becomes shaped by others' perceptions of you rather than by your authentic self. The problem with constantly seeking approval is that it places your self-worth outside of your control. You depend on others' opinions to define your value. When they approve of you, you feel good about yourself. When they criticize or reject you, you feel worthless. This emotional roller coaster drains your energy and leaves you feeling exhausted, constantly trying to keep up with the expectations of others, never feeling truly at peace with yourself. In a world where opinions constantly shift, trying to please everyone means you'll never feel like you truly measure up. The bar keeps moving, and with it, your sense of self-worth. You're constantly chasing something that's impossible to reach true satisfaction from external sources. But when you start to let go of that need for validation, you free yourself from this exhausting cycle. You stop seeking approval and begin to give it to yourself. You stop waiting for others to tell you that you're enough because you already know that you are. You stop living for the likes and comments of others and you start living for yourself. It's a powerful shift. Instead of measuring your worth by how others see you, you define it on your own terms. You understand that your value doesn't depend on the approval of anyone else, it comes from within. When you give yourself that permission to stop seeking approval, you unlock a whole new level of confidence and self-assurance. Letting go of the need for approval is not about becoming arrogant or self-centered. It's about becoming grounded in who you are and embracing your uniqueness. It's about saying, I am enough as I am without needing anyone else's validation to confirm it. When you stop seeking approval, you start to realize that the only person whose opinion truly matters is your own. This doesn't mean you stop caring about the people you love or stop being kind and considerate toward others. It means that you stop compromising your own values and needs to make someone else happy. You stop adjusting your personality, your goals, and your beliefs to fit into a mold that others have created for you. Instead, you allow yourself to be authentic, knowing that the people who are meant for you will appreciate you for exactly who you are. This shift also allows you to make decisions based on what's best for you, not what will make others happy. So often, people pleasers make choices that align with others' desires, even if it means sacrificing their own happiness. They might take on tasks or projects they don't want to do, say yes to requests they're not comfortable with, or suppress their own dreams to follow someone else's. But when you stop seeking approval, you begin to make choices based on your own needs, your own values, and your own vision for your life. You start to trust yourself more and rely less on others to direct your path. The beauty of this shift is that it also allows you to build healthier relationships. When you stop seeking validation from others, you stop allowing people to manipulate or control you. You set boundaries and learn to say no without guilt. You become more authentic in your interactions, and as a result, your relationships become more genuine. You attract people who respect you for who you truly are, rather than for the version of yourself that you've created to please them. These relationships are built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding, not on one-sided sacrifice. Learning to stop seeking approval also means embracing your flaws and imperfections. Nobody is perfect. Everyone has weaknesses, struggles, and things they wish they could change. But when you stop seeking approval, you stop trying to hide these parts of yourself. You stop pretending to be something you're not in order to gain others' acceptance. Instead, you embrace your imperfections, knowing that they don't diminish your value. You stop comparing yourself to others and recognize that your journey is unique. You begin to celebrate who you are, flaws and all, because those imperfections are what make you human. They are a part of your story and they are valuable. The freedom that comes with stopping the pursuit of external validation is profound. You begin to live life on your own terms without the weight of others' expectations dragging you down. You make choices that align with your passions, your values, and your goals. You create a life that feels authentic to you, not one that is molded by others. You stop playing a role and start showing up as your true self. This shift is not easy and it takes time, but the rewards are immeasurable. When you stop seeking approval, you open the door to a life that is full of possibility, freedom, and authenticity. The most powerful validation comes from within. When you give yourself the approval you've been seeking from others, you set yourself free from the need for constant external affirmation. You stop worrying about how others perceive you and start focusing on how you perceive yourself. You realize that your worth has always been within you, and that's where the true power lies. Once you stop seeking approval from others, you take back your power, and you start living a life that is truly yours. When you stop being the nice girl, you start living your life based on what's right for you, not what others expect from you. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that being nice means always saying yes, always putting others before yourself, and constantly seeking approval. But that kind of life can leave you feeling empty, overwhelmed, and even resentful. People-pleasing might seem like a way to make others happy, but in reality, it often leads to self-neglect. The more you sacrifice your needs for others, the less you have left for yourself. And before long, you're exhausted, stressed, and emotionally drained, all because you've been living to fulfill the expectations of others, not your own. The problem with always being the nice girl is that it keeps you stuck in a loop where you're constantly pleasing others at the expense of your own happiness. You might feel like you're doing the right thing by helping everyone around you, but in truth, you're only enabling others to take advantage of your kindness. They learn that they can rely on you, and in return, you get little to nothing. Your kindness isn't being reciprocated, and you're left feeling unappreciated. Over time, this dynamic can damage your self-esteem. You may feel like you're never good enough because despite all your efforts, no one is truly valuing you for who you are. You're only being valued for what you do for others, and that's a dangerous position to be in because it means you're constantly seeking external validation. The more you seek validation from others, the more disconnected you become from your own needs and desires. You start to lose track of what truly matters to you. This is why it's essential to stop the cycle of people pleasing. When you stop being the nice girl, you start to reclaim your power. You realize that your needs are just as important as anyone else's, and it's okay to set boundaries and prioritize your own happiness. Setting boundaries means learning to say no, learning to take care of yourself first, and learning to put yourself at the center of your own life. When you stop trying to please everyone, you stop living in a constant state of fear and insecurity. You stop worrying about whether you're good enough for others and start realizing that you are enough just as you are. Your worth is not determined by how much you give to others or how much they approve of you. It's determined by the love and respect you give yourself. The moment you stop being the nice girl is the moment you begin to embrace your own worth. You stop defining yourself by how others perceive you and start defining yourself by your own standards. You realize that you don't have to be everyone's favorite person or be liked by everyone. It's more important to be true to yourself and surround yourself with people who appreciate you for who you really are, not for the persona you've created to fit in. You begin to understand that being kind and generous is important, but it should never come at the cost of your own well-being. True kindness comes from a place of self-respect and authenticity, not from trying to meet the expectations of others. Living authentically means embracing your true self without fear of judgment. When you stop trying to fit into other people's expectations, you give yourself permission to follow your own path. You stop pretending to be something you're not just to gain approval, and instead you start showing up as your true, unfiltered self. This shift is liberating because it allows you to stop suppressing your feelings, your desires, and your goals. You stop pretending to be happy when you're not, and you stop saying yes when you want to say no. When you live authentically, you create space for real, meaningful connections. The people who are meant for you will appreciate the real you, not the version of yourself you've been pretending to be. The power of embracing who you truly are lies in the ability to make choices that are aligned with your values and your desires. When you stop trying to meet everyone's needs, you give yourself the freedom to choose what's best for you. You stop living to make others happy and start living for yourself. The more you practice this, the more confident you become in your decisions. You stop second-guessing yourself because you know you're acting in your best interest. This confidence builds over time and enables you to make bold decisions that move you closer to the life you want. Letting go of the need to please others is not about becoming selfish, it's about becoming self-aware. It's about recognizing that your needs matter, that your feelings are valid, and that you deserve to live a life that brings you joy. When you stop being the nice girl, you begin to step into your full potential. You take control of your life and become the person you were always meant to be, not the person others want you to be. You start showing up as your authentic self, and that's when you truly start living. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into other people's expectations and start expanding into the person you were always meant to become. This is where real empowerment lies, when you no longer need others to define your worth and you start defining it for yourself. In conclusion, stopping the cycle of being the nice girl isn't about losing your kindness or becoming cold-hearted. It's about finding balance. It's about realizing that your worth is not determined by how much you give to others, but by how much you respect and care for yourself. You don't have to please everyone. In fact, when you stop seeking approval from others, you free yourself to be your authentic self, to live your life according to your values, and to make decisions that serve your well-being. You stop allowing fear, insecurity, and external validation to control your actions. You begin to trust yourself more and know that you are enough just as you are. The moment you stop being the nice girl is the moment you reclaim your power, your peace, and your true potential. You deserve to live a life that aligns with your desires, your goals, and your vision. It's time to stop living for others and start living for you. Only then will you find the happiness, fulfillment, and respect you've been seeking all along. So take control, set your boundaries, and embrace your true self because the world needs the real you, not the version you've been pretending to be.